right, here we go. Monday Trifecta is back. I don't know, what episode are we on?
We're on episode 7.
Because he's our librarian in that sense. So I mean,
so like, if we were a Netflix original series, we'd be like 1/3 through our first season.
Yes, we are locked in here. He's got the Ohio State.
OH.
They look good. Justin Fields.
Cody Proctor, let me get an IO.
What?
All right, nope. Our weather lady was not giving me the IO. Embarrassing.
Boo. But here, I mean, we got football starting in 4 days.
4 days.
4 days.
4 days.
Depending on how you like to count it. If you like to count the day, not count the day, we talked about that briefly.
Yeah.
But we'll just move on. But today we're going to dive into the MCC 3A, 4A. Last week we did 2B all the way up to 2A. Then we're going to touch on Dust Devils because they are into the playoffs that start on Wednesday. They have an off day tomorrow. And then hopefully we can touch a little bit on the Americans. They've wrapped up their first preseason tournament because we are locked into a wild portion of this calendar.
So what you're saying is that we got a lot going on.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very important to be organized and get our schedule together.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. And if you didn't notice, that means everything is going to be right here local. And that's what we hope for this podcast is it will be all local. And then if there's a big story out in Seattle or somewhere else, we'll touch on that a little bit too. But now we're in the meat of this, and it's going to be all hopefully local. We'll start with the Mid-Columbia, give a little bit of our camp reactions because the Keeper Camp Tour has been rolling through. Give our power rankings going into Friday, actually Thursday night.
Yeah, because Kamiakin opens up at Lamson on Thursday, and then Friday's the big one.
Yeah, and then maybe give a dark horse from there. So let's just start right into it. We'll go from the bottom of last year's calendar. That's how we're going to start so that everyone knows we're not going in some weird order, but we'll just go from the bottom of last year's kind of standings, which means we'll start with Southridge. And I was out at Southridge camp. Let me just double check. I'm almost positive. I should know these things off the top of my head. Yeah, I'm right. Southridge is the first school we're going to start with. Went out to Aaron Sonicsen's camp, and the first impression I got is just the leadership is better. Everyone that he talked to about was just the leadership and how this group of seniors maybe understand leadership a little bit more and how to go about it. And for a team that needs team that didn't win in conference, it kind of starts with leadership. Whether or not you get those wins, but you want the leadership to kind of, lead the way, obviously.
One of my main takeaways from when you went to camp and you brought back the sound and we were going through the sound and kind of talking about that camp was Coach said that Southridge is one of those teams that when teams look at the schedule, they look at Southridge and kind of think of that as an easy win. And he said that should make you angry and that should motivate you to be better. That being the mindset, that gives me hope that the Suns are going to have a better season than last year because they already have that mindset in camp that, look, people are going to look at the schedule, see us, and think it's an easy win. That should make you mad. That should motivate you to be better. And it should be interesting to see, like you said, with new leadership with the Southridge Suns, that's very important, and also building a culture that we're just not going to be pushovers this season.
And they're playing with house money. Every game, probably they're going to be the underdog.
Yeah.
And playing the underdog card for 10 games in a year, which that's how long the high school football season is, you're bound to maybe pick off someone who's underestimating you. And Aaron Sonicsen said, Coach Sonicsen said, I want those guys to be pissed off. He used those words. So if you're pissed off every single game and you're angry, you're going to maybe upset someone, and then you can throw a wrench in the entire standings. I think for a positive year, take a step forward, you need to get 2 or 3 wins.
Yeah.
I don't think you can. I think it's.
We've talked about this a lot, is setting expectations that you can reach, not setting expectations like so high that when you don't reach it, you're like super depressed.
They're not going to go 8-0 in conference. They're not going to go 9-0 or 8-1 in conference, 9-0 in conference, or whatever it may be, 8-0 in conference, 8-1 overall. They're not going to go undefeated. So I think you should maybe try to shoot for 5-5 or 500, and then if you get to like 4 or 3, that's a positive year considering you only had 1 win last year. But that 1 win they talked about was in week 10, which was a non-playoff game, because what happens is for Mick, who's just getting started over here in this first year, the people who make the playoffs, they're playing actual playoff games on week 10 to keep their season alive. The bottom 6 teams who don't make it, bottom 5, bottom 5. I got to remember how many teams are in conference. Bottom 5 are just playing a week 10 game just to play a week 10 game to round out their schedule. So even if they win, nothing happens. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the games, and that's good though.
Who did they beat?
They beat Rogers.
Okay.
And Rogers actually playing TCP, a 2B school. So that kind of tells you kind of where the program is. But if they won that game and they felt like they had some momentum going into the offseason. So I like Southridge in that I think they are going to make some strides.
And also, being an underdog is better than having high expectations placed on you.
We'll talk
you
about
have
that too.
nothing to lose. All you have to do is go out there, play hard, and if you lose, a lot of people are just going to be like, oh, they lost. But if you win, then you just upset a bunch of people in the conference. So having that not on your shoulders is a huge relief.
And there's a team that we're going to talk about specifically that and why I kind of have just different, not curb your enthusiasm a little bit on them. But some guys that point out, Trenton Slater and Brendan Beckwith, are competing for the quarterback job. There was no decision as of last week, but there's been a few days gone by for camp, and I would be surprised if Monday before your game week you don't have who your starter is. So I'm sure there is a starter there, but those were the two guys, and who knows? They could both play on Friday night to see who wins that job. Ryan Stayrook, another Stayrook. He is a running back DB. He's someone to keep an eye on, and he admitted last year he wasn't ready for the starting role, but now he feels like he's ready. So he's someone to really look out for. And then I talked to an offense, Fidel Gutierrez. He was the other lineman that I spoke to, 6'1", 230, big guy out there. So those are some key guys that you want to look at, and hopefully Mason Bond comes back too. He's a very good running back. So those are some key players that I say for Southridge. Now let's move forward. Let's go to, I believe, Walla Walla is next, or Pasco. It's Pasco.
I think it's Pasco.
It's Pasco.
Which is also another school that you
went to.
went to.
Which is also one that I went to. So Pasco, Coach Leon Wright-Jackson is in his second year at the helm. He was also a state-winning running back with Pasco. And his whole mantra, even when day one when he got the job, was return Pasco back to its glory days, or at least the feeling of its glory days. And it's very cosmetic, and people were like, oh, it's just a helmet.
But they changed it to purple.
They went back to purple. They had always had a purple helmet, and then a couple of years ago, they went to a white helmet, which I do like white helmets. I think they're cool. I think they're clean. But it was just an identity thing where, hey, we're going back to what we were. We're going back to what has historically done well for us. So they went back to the purple helmet. You're going to see them in purple helmet. He said it's going to look very Penn State with just like a stripe down the middle and kind of plain, no logo or anything like that. But it's just all about identity. And I think last year they got one win, but I don't think that was indicative of how much better they were, because there was 3 or 4 games that were one-possession games, and they were late in the game. And that wasn't the case a couple years ago. So I think they're in the right direction. Armani Reyes comes back. He started a few games last year, came in the middle of last year, and he took advantage of the situation. So now he's coming back. He's a junior. He knew he was the starter all offseason. He's gone to camps, and I think he's going to be someone to watch, a quarterback to watch, because he's one of the few teams that actually have a starter coming back.
Yeah.
And he also wears he wears Jordan 11s, which is always a good thing for you.
Great cleats. I also think that is going to be a huge part of their identity, is that they have establishments in the very important positions that they have. Having a quarterback who had experience last year, coming back and having that experience as a motivating factor for him to be better and build upon from last season is something that a lot of teams in the MCC don't have. There are a lot of quarterback battles, and we'll get into more quarterback battles within the conference. But Pasco, they were at the Jamboree this past weekend. Mm-hmm. I was only there for a couple minutes because I had to get back for the show, but something that really caught my eye is defense is young. They're going to have their growing pains, but the offense looked crisp and clean. They weren't running any crazy schemes that are going to put receivers and offensive line not on the same page. So offense is crisp, clean. They are going to score a lot more points than they did last year, but that defense also is really young, and I think they're going to go through some small growing pains.
I was surprised. I was going back, just getting ready for their camp visit, and they were actually the number 1 team against the pass last year, which was crazy for a team that only had 1 win. And a lot of it probably was the other MCC teams knew they could run the ball, so they just piled up on running. But that was something that I noticed. And there's the games that I'm talking about. Kennewick beat them 7-0 in the middle of last year. It was late. It was 0-0 for a lot of that game, and you thought maybe Pasco was going to pull out a huge upset, but that didn't happen. Walla Walla, they lost by 5 points. So it was just a couple games that were really close, but they just seemed more competitive overall. And with a team that's rebuilding, just like Southridge, and we'll get into Walla Walla, you want to stay in games as long as possible. If you end up losing the game, that's okay, kind of. You don't want to be out of it by halftime.
Yeah. And from a player's perspective, too, close games are better for your experience and growth as opposed to blowouts. So if you're involved in blowouts, one, your starters are not going to be playing the whole entire game because as soon as the blowout is starting, you're going to get the second stringers in, third stringers in.
Yeah.
So close games, when you're rebuilding your program, allow growing pains that allow you to grow and get better. And so from a program standpoint, seeing that they had a lot of one-possession losses last season, and having those kids come back, that experience that they can learn from is going to put them in a better position this upcoming season.
Yeah, and they start out with Hermiston, Eastmont, and Southridge. Those are 3 games that they could be in. They should be in. Hermiston will get there, but is going to take a little bit of a step back this year. We know that. So if they could be competitive there and maybe steal a win week 1, it is at home. I believe, yeah, it's at home. So it's at Edgar Brown. If they could get that win, then they're off to a really good start. Eastmont is going to be tough from up in Wenatchee, but then they have Southridge, and if they can get that game, they're 2-1 out of the first 3 weeks. There's good feeling. So I think the first 3 weeks for Pasco are going to be really important, just as far as getting off to a good start and having good vibes. All right, next up on the Keeper Camp Tour Camp previews, Walla Walla, right?
I believe so.
Walla Walla. So you were out there.
Yep.
With new head coach, Coach Lufer. What did you see?
Well, it's a transition year, and in all transition years, the main thing is the coaching staff is going to have to relate to the players. They're all going to have to be on the same page. They also have a quarterback battle. So there's a lot going on in Walla Walla. I did like that the competitive nature of the practice, it was chippy. Mm-hmm. And anytime you go to any practice and you see that it's chippy, but it's like controlled aggression, that's good because everyone's competing and everyone wants to be at a high level. So that was good. But again, they have a quarterback battle. They are a smaller team that I've been to. Out of all the camps that I've been to, I think they're the smallest team that I went to. So, and the Coach Lufer, he told me also that the team philosophy for this upcoming season is that they want to play great defense and they want to control the ball. Teams that have that philosophy don't have the ability to put a lot of points on the board. So what you can expect from Walla Walla games this season is that they're going to run the ball and they're going to try to get small plays instead of these huge chunk plays, and they're going to chew up as much clock as possible because they feel that if their defense is able to keep them in the game and you're going into the fourth quarter, one-possession game, they'll have a chance to win it. Now, the problem is if a team is able to get 1, 2, 3, 4 touchdowns right off the bat, I'm not sure the Walla Walla Blue Devils are going to be able to bounce back. They still haven't named their quarterback, so that battle is still going on right now. And I always think of that because in the day and age of football that we play in now, quarterback is it's always been the most important position, but now it's more important than ever. And so not knowing who your starter is, that might throw off some of the cadence with the offensive line, might throw off some of the rhythm with the wide receivers. So they are also in a transition year. I wouldn't call it a rebuild, but there's definitely a lot of changes that is being made.
Definitely a transition year. And the one thing that Walla Walla always has going for them is that they play at Borleski, and that is a tough place to play. It's a tough travel for the football teams, and every coach across the MCC will tell you that Borleski is its own monster. It's grass, and a lot of other fields around here. There's only one other field that's not grass, and that's at Fran Rish, but it sometimes gets muddy.
Yep.
And so if Walla Walla can ground and pound and keep its small ball, so to speak, for football, then hopefully they can stay in games. But like you said, if a team gets out in front, 2 or 3 touchdowns, it might be tough for them. I don't know if they have the firepower to get back into the game.
It really depends on how great their defense can be. If their defense can play at the level that the coaching staff wants it to play at, then if a top-tier team, it's a setup game, you know what I mean? So if a top-tier team comes into Borleski, let's say week 5, and it's raining or it's cold and there's weird conditions at Borleski, that could be a trap game for the top-tier teams if the defense is able to play at that level.
We see it almost every year where a team that's top towards maybe higher up in the MCC, they'll go to Borleski, and it's a tight game until maybe the third or fourth quarter, and then it starts widening up. But for any team that's the underdog, the longer you stay in games, hey, you think you might steal one. So there's that. They do start with Southridge, and then their schedule doesn't do any favors.
Yeah.
Southridge, Hanford, Chiawana, Hermiston, Richland, Kamiakin, Kennewick, Pasco, Wenatchee.
Yeah,
they got to get off to they got to get the first win.
If they don't, and they get into that middle chunk of the schedule, it's not going to look good because also confidence. I always talk about confidence and rhythm no matter what sport. Those are so important. And if they're not able to get that first win and they go to that middle chunk of the schedule that is the best of the best, it's going to be rough. It's going to be all uphill for the Blue Devils.
And they play at Hanford, at Hermiston, at Richland. Chiawana is at home, so there's that. That's one of those games that you think maybe if it's muggy,
that might
you
be a
never
trap
know.
game.
But yeah, they have a tough schedule. They really have a tough schedule. They start off with a game that is winnable against Southridge, and they end the game against Pasco that should be a game that they should be able to compete in at least. But those middle, after week one, they just got to get some good vibes going.
And that's good for young teams and in transition year. This is going to be an opportunity for you to play the best of the best and see where that lands you.
Yeah. Next up is Hermiston. Actually, on the schedule that says the way that the MCC site has them labeled, lined up, they're up a little bit higher. But Hanford missed the playoffs last year because of a Week 9 loss to Kamiakin, and Kamiakin took that spot. So Hermiston, in their first year in the MCC, missed the playoffs by one game, and they were a good football team last year. And a lot of us thought that, hey, if they got into the state tournament and they got into 3A, they might surprise people because no one knows who Hermiston is on the west side. No one knows who Hermiston was, but they had to get in. And Coach Biglin and Kamiakin's team went into Hermiston and took the win. And I know that didn't sit well with them because you were down there.
Yeah.
And but that's the biggest thing you learn. They were in the Oregon division that they're in. They had maybe one game that was hard in league. It was against Pendleton. The other Hood Rivers and whoever and everyone else that they played were games they knew they were going to win. Step into the MCC. And
it's a completely different story.
Every week, you're going to have to compete, even if it's against Southridge, Walla Walla, Pasco, teams that you think maybe are towards the bottom tier of the conference. Those teams are all better than teams that were in the conference year.
And that's what I talked with the coaching staff and the players about is, what is something that you learned in year one in the MCC that you can now take advantage in year two? And they said, every single night there's going to be a team that we're going to play that has the opportunity to take us out, which is something that they didn't experience in the Oregon division, like you said. Now, Hermiston's also going to go into a transition year in that they have a brand new quarterback. It's sophomore Chase Elliott, also wears Jordan cleats. Shout out to him.
Yeah.
But the problem is, and we've talked about this, young quarterbacks going into this conference with these top-tier teams.
And he played freshman ball last year, I think.
Yes, he played freshman.
He didn't even play JV.
So that's complete different jump.
Yeah.
That's like playing high school basketball and then going to play even D2 college basketball. The speed, the level, the schemes, it's completely different. So that's going to be a transition. But I'm going to tell you, he's got a good arm.
Yeah.
In practice, obviously I'm not going to compare practice to games. But what I saw in practice, very poised. He knew the offense. And he was a leader as a sophomore. He was going out, calling out receivers, calling out offensive linemen, telling people where they needed to go. I like that. And I think it's also going to set Hermiston up for the future, being able to have him play all 3 years in the same program. And they have a lot of different offensive schemes, and their offense is a little bit more complex than some of the other teams that I went to.
A
lot of RPO, a lot of 4 wide receivers, and 1 running back in the backfield. So their offense is going to be very interesting. Now the question is, again, week 3, you're playing top-tier team, on the road, young quarterback, the lights are bright. How is that going to shake up? Defensively, didn't get a lot of vibes on the defensive end because when I was at practice, they were mostly working on offense. But the coaching staff said that they had a lot of returners on defense, and they are going to lean on the defense to help a young quarterback and a young offense, which, again, it kind of goes back to Walla Walla. Defensively, that's where the tone is going to be set. If you can set the tone on the defensive side of the football, then your offense, that's a lot more pressure that's going to be taken off of them.
And they're physical. Coach Fiatete knows what he's doing. I like him as a coach, and I think he's going to have these guys ready to play and ready to compete. They are physical, and shout out to Coach for, looks like he's in great shape. Looks like he lost some weight, so good for him. And I also, the small sample size, I've only been here for, this is my 4th football year. And he's had Andrew James since sophomore year, growing through senior year. From that sample, maybe he does like having an inexperienced quarterback and then growing with him.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like his thinking or if that's what he prefers, because a lot of high school high school programs don't do that.
Yeah, they'll play the best quarterback. Whether you're a senior or junior, they want the best one out there.
Or the more experienced one who's played varsity a little bit. But And I don't know what the situation is.
They did have a quarterback. They had a junior quarterback who was battling during the spring, and they decided to move him to wide receiver. So the backup quarterback is also playing wide receiver. So it might be true what you're saying is that there was a battle between a junior and a sophomore, and it really came down to just the coach's decision and what he wanted, and maybe he wanted to have.
And I'm sure Chase probably gives them maybe the same chance that the junior quarterback would have had to win games. But maybe he also likes, hey, let's take some bumps, and hopefully we'll grow and we'll get better. And all this experience when we didn't have the expectations will help us when we do have the expectations. When this kid is a senior, and obviously if you have a 3-year starter as a senior, your expectations are going to be very, very high.
Yeah, for sure.
Next up would be on our little round trip, we are going to go to Hanford.
The Dirty Birds.
The Dirty Birds.
Talked about them yesterday. You were out at camp.
Yeah.
Seems like they're young, and they're not calling it a rebuild. They're calling it reloading.
They are reloading. And any program that loses 30 seniors, you're like, oh, that usually means the team's going to take a step back. And Hanford, they might, but I didn't feel that when I was there because Coach Brett Jay loves the group that he has, the seniors and juniors now that were juniors and sophomores last year. They're stepping in, and he thinks they're just as talented and maybe a little bit more talented than the seniors he had a year ago in certain spots. He also acknowledged that maybe along the line, they're not going to be the experience that they had with Connor Milliken up the middle, who'd been a 4-year starter. But, he really likes Easton Whiteside, the new quarterback, who's stepping in for Garrett Horner, who also was a 3-year starter, sophomore, junior, senior.
And he was one of the best.
Yeah, he has 9 school records. So, he's excited about him, and he does throw a good ball too. I saw Whiteside; he was slinging around. It was good. It was a tight spiral. There are a few drops, so I think the offense still needs to get in rhythm at practice, and maybe it was just that practice or whatever. But there were a few drops. But they're excited about that, and their defense has some guys coming back. They have both corners coming back in Gabe Martinez and then Kimura, I believe is his name. Let me just double check because I got it right here, and I can. There's so many names and so many guys, just trying to keep them all straight.
While you're looking it up, do you also think that they have the ability to continue the offensive success that they had last year, having a quarterback who was, like you said, through the program for 3 years, set 9 school records? Do you think that they have the firepower offensively to live up to what they did last season?
Oh, I definitely think so. I think their offense is going to be fine. The offense is never the issue with Hanford. It's the defense. If the defense can match what the offense does, then they're going to be fine because their offense always scores points. It's just the defense about stopping the other team's high-powered offenses. And then the other thing is finishing games. Last year, they went to G-Prep. They had G-Prep on – oh, no. Was it G-Prep? No, it wasn't G-Prep. Kamari is the corner that I was talking about, who's coming back, so their secondary is going to be good. I know this is kind of convoluted, and I apologize because I'm all over the place at the moment. But their playoff game –
They also remind me of another team that's called the Falcons that's in the NFL.
Oh, no, it was G-Prep. I was right. So I just got to trust myself. They went up to G-Prep. They had a 3-touchdown lead on Gonzaga Prep into the second half.
Sounds like another Falcons team in the NFL.
And then it was the fourth quarter, and things kind of got away. But that has unfortunately been the MO for Hanford, is that they play really good for 3 quarters, or maybe 3.5 quarters, but they just can't finish games. And Brett Jay is focused on making sure this team can finish games from beginning to end. And they'll beat the teams they're supposed to beat, 100%. It's now about beating Richland, Kennewick, Kamiakin, Chiawana. If you really want to be in the top tier of the MCC, you have to play 4 quarters because those other teams are going to play 4 quarters and they're going to match you. So there's a lot of optimism with the guys stepping in, the reload, but now it's about playing 4 quarters, defense matching that offense, and if they can do that, they might surprise people this year.
Defense still matters in football nowadays. I know everyone wants to do air raid offense and put 100 points on the board, but defense still matters.
But if the other team puts up 110 points, you still lost.
Yep, for sure.
So now we will go to, look, you want to go Kennewick or Kamiakin?
Let's do Kamiakin.
All right, we'll go to the Braves. The Scott Bigland's crew and I was out there just last week, and he started the practice. He huddled everyone up and said, hey, we didn't have a good practice the day before. We got to refocus. This has to be a good practice. It was muggy out. It was wet, and the team was fired up. They changed up their practice schedule a little bit. They're starting out with last year, and a lot of teams go individual drills, and then they'll go into like team drills. They started with special teams and then went right into the team, and the team drills, and the guys like that. Again, this is going to come down to the quarterback. This is another situation where we have a new quarterback, and it's going to be either Henry Mercado or the returner from last year, Lucas Castilleja. But it's been a quarterback competition, and I think Henry is going to get the nod on Thursday because he was running with the ones last week, and then Lucas would come in. But Coach Bigland also said that both guys will play on Thursday. So if you're going out to the Kamiakin West Valley game, you're going to see both quarterbacks because he said both of them earned the right to get some reps in that game. But I think Henry Mercado, a sophomore, is going to get the nod.
I'll go into what I don't like first, and then I'll go into what I like last.
Sure.
I've seen too many times where a team will play both quarterbacks and it doesn't go right. That's my only fear about Kamiakin right now is when you go with two quarterbacks, a lot of the rhythm is off.
I don't think it's going to be for more than the game because this is a non-conference game, so it doesn't actually matter.
Yeah, so I guess that's the only concern that I have now is, if that's for one game and it's a non-conference game, that's fine. But after that game, you have to choose who your guy is.
I think they will. They've never gone with two quarterbacks. I don't think there's another reason why they would, unless it was like a package thing where we have seen some more success with because Lucas is more of a running quarterback. So if you had like a more running style package deal, but I think they'll settle on one.
Yeah.
And I think Thursday's about who's going to win the job.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they're going to see two.
And so if that's the fact, if this is like a preseason game, that they're treating it like that, and they're just going to play both quarterbacks, allow them just to kind of go out and see what they do, and then after that game, they'll say, okay, this is our guy. And then again, like you said, if they want to put one of the quarterbacks in wishbone formation and they want to use that quarterback to run and be a threat to pass to keep the defense on their toes, no problem. What I do like, and I'm sorry, I'm still the rookie, so I don't know all the names. I've talked to a lot of people. I've heard that they got a kid that's a dude at running back.
Oh, Tuna Altair. Tuna.
Heard he's a
big
dude.
Fish.
Heard he's going to run over a lot of people.
Yes.
Had a really good freshman year, if I'm correct. Sophomore year kind of had. It seems like there must have been an injury. I've talked to a couple people. It hasn't been confirmed. A couple people feel like he may have.
I don't think
had a nagging injury throughout the year, but didn't have as great of a year last year as he did his freshman year. And I kind of expect him to have a breakout year.
I asked Coach about that, about how, because he didn't run the ball great at the beginning of last year, and then last 3 weeks in playoffs, dude got rolling, and he was averaging like 200 yards a game. And Coach took that on him and said, hey, we tried to, because they had a young team last year, a lot of sophomores and juniors, and we tried to slow down the offense and kind of eat clock up a little bit. And Tuna's a guy that likes just to go and just run and keep going. And so when they opened up the playbook and started to get back to their high-tempo offense, which we've seen in the past, he started to run the ball more. And you keep feeding him and feeding him. He's also a guy, like a lot of running backs, they'll get better as the game goes on after they've got hit a couple times.
Yep.
So it might have been maybe there was a little tweak here and there. I didn't hear that last year very much. But I will say that Coach took full responsibility, as a good coach should, and said, we're going to get back to the high-powered, high-octane. They're one of the teams that don't let the shot clock, the play clock run down very much, and they just go. So
I also heard that they got a dude at receiver, like a
Messiah
6'6"
Jones.
dude at receiver. I saw a play. I can't remember where I saw it. I think I saw on Twitter last year. They threw a fade route back of the end zone, and he one-handed around the cornerback, grabbed it, pulled it in, touchdown. And he was a sophomore last year.
Yeah,
and so
that's the thing that excites me about Kamiakin is that they have a lot of weapons. Tuna in the backfield. You have Messiah Jones. You have Nico Wiltz. You have Kellen Rutz under in the slot. You have guys all over the place. Now it's about that quarterback if they can just be productive and be efficient. And the O-line. The O-line is a little bit younger too. They got to gel. But the one thing about Kamiakin that we always know, their defense is going to be good. They're one of the top 3 defenses last year, and they're going to be fast. I asked them what's going to stand out to everyone on defense. They're going to be fast. They're a little more undersized than they have been in the past, but they're going to be super fast. So I tend to think they're going to be a top 3 team in the MCC this year. It'll be about, like we talked. Okay, this is good that we talked about it. They have expectations this year. Last year, they didn't have expectations. They were expected to be Kamiakin and be a competitive football team because that's what Kamiakin does. They're one of the best 3A teams in our area for sure, and I'd say always one of the top 10 in the state, maybe top 7 in the state always. So they were expected to be competitive. But this year, there's hefty expectations. Eastside Catholic is Eastside Catholic on the west side, but Kamiakin in 2016 went on the west side and beat Eastside Catholic to win their state title on their way to the state title. So you never know, and this team has the expectations that they got to be good. Moving forward.
And it's a good transition because speaking of expectations,
Kennewick.
The next team that I went to, a lot of expectations.
Yes.
Not only from themselves, but from us two, and I've talked to other people in the area that expect Kennewick to be very good this season. New head coach.
Yeah.
So like a lot of
Randy
the teams that we've
Affolter.
talked about, new head coach.
Came over from Ellensburg.
But same quarterback, same running back, experience up front, and defensively they seem very sound. And so that's something that I like. Blaine Chavez playing quarterback. I saw him at the Jamboree. First drive, 3 plays in, scored a touchdown just like that. Very poised, and he's also playing defense. And I talked to him about
One top safeties.
in the summer, how do you balance between focusing on, okay, I need to work on this so I have a good season as a safety, but at the same time, I have to play quarterback, so I have to learn the offense. And he said that he would just break it down. One day he would dedicate everything to quarterback. One day he'd dedicate everything to safety. And it seems like he put a very organized off-season workout regimen into effect, which not a lot of young kids do.
And he's an absolute hawk at safety, too.
Gonna
Got a lot of
expect a
interceptions.
huge year from him. Yeah, so I expect him to be great on the defensive end, expect him to be great offensively. He is going to be the key player for that team. And it's obvious that a lot of teams are going to depend on their quarterback, but not every team has a quarterback and a safety starting both ways, being a leader and a senior leader. So I expect a great year from him. Miles Mayofsky, did I pronounce that correctly?
Yep.
I don't know what he looked like last year.
He's a big man.
But he's very big.
Yeah.
And he's only a sophomore.
Yep.
And he had a beast year last year. Saw him in practice, saw him at the Jamboree as well. He runs angry.
Yeah. He's good. I mean,
And you don't expect that from young kids to run angry.
No, but he ran angry last year. And that's why whenever he touched the ball for Kennewick last year, you thought something special was going to happen. He played a little slot last year too, but now he's going to be primary running back. I like Kennewick a lot. And they're one of the few teams, and they might be the only team, that has a returner coming back who started from beginning to end.
At quarterback.
At quarterback. The only thing that worries me is that he is such a big part of that defense, and he's a safety. He's throwing himself. He's going to take hits. He's already going to take hits at quarterback. Just hopefully he stayed healthy for the most part last year. We want him to stay healthy again this year so that the team comes together. We don't want anybody ever to get injured. It's just that's one thing that you worry about is as a safety, he's going to be coming up, run, stop in.
As a kid, I played safety and I played quarterback, but never did I play both at the same time. Coaches would say, okay, either you're going to play safety today or you're going to play quarterback today because, like you said, safeties, like linebackers, their sole purpose is if anyone comes across the middle or if anyone comes through the gap, you crack them as hard as you can, try to force fumbles, and that's not a position that you associate with quarterback.
Right.
So
and he's not afraid of it.
Yeah.
He's not afraid of it. He's a great safety. He's a good quarterback, top-tier quarterback. And Miles is a difference maker. They have O-line. Like you said, they're good across the board, but they're one of those teams that now has expectations. Last year, people thought they were going to be good. They thought they'd be competitive. They thought they'd surprise teams. No one is going to be surprised by Kennewick this year.
Yeah.
And when you start your year, Hanford, Chiawana, Hermiston, Kamiakin, Hermiston maybe is taking a step back, but Hanford's not really taking a step back. Chiawana certainly is not, and they're going to be good. We'll get there. And Kamiakin's going to be good. That game, week 4, could be for the top 3A seed out of the MCC. And remember, there's only 2, and there's only 2 in the 4A this year too. So that start.
That's definitely going to be our game of the week.
Probably.
Because those two are going to be.
We leave it up to the fans.
Yeah.
I mean, we just like to leave our fans.
That's
going to
be like the MYCK'S picks game of the week that I have. But yeah, I expect them to have a great year. Now, the question, like you said, is with that expectation, what are you going to do with it? And like you said, first 4 games are brutal.
Yeah, and
the schedule is not kind to.
If you get
the
off to a
Lions.
1-1 start, that's fine. 2-0 would be fantastic. 0-2, how does the team react to that? Just like any team. I mean, and we talk about these kids like they're professionals. They're not professionals. They're high school kids who like have,
homework
school,
and
girlfriends, whatever it may be. They have drama, so you never know how they're going to react. And that's one of the things Coach Graff always tells me. So I don't know how they're going to react today and for Chiawana. But yeah, those 4 games, we're going to know.
Yeah.
But if they get through those 4 games, they're sitting pretty. The last team that they have that had a winning record last year is Richland, week 8. So if they could get through the first 4, 3-1, 2-2 maybe.
The good news is it's better to have the hardest part of your schedule in the first part of the season because everybody's starting fresh.
Right.
Everybody needs to figure out what their identity is and get into a rhythm. So you can catch dudes at the front, and then at the back end of the schedule, if it's a little bit easier going into playoffs, you're looking pretty.
All right, to the Richland Bombers. Came in 2nd in the MCC last year, and we are going out to practice today. So truth be told, I'm flying by the seat of my pants here, and I will be with Chiawana too, but Chiawana I know a little bit more about. Richland is reloading, to my understanding. I mean,
did they make the playoffs last year?
They did make the playoffs last year, and they lost in the Week 10 game. They kind of got behind the 8 ball. There was a lot of wind that day. It seemed like they were just a little bit worried about unleashing the offense, and they finally did. But by the time they did, they were already down 14 points, and it was hard for them to come back. They're losing guys. They're losing their top cornerback, Ryan Kriskovich, last year. Josh Farner was their quarterback. He's gone. Cody Sanderson is now at Central Washington. They're losing guys along the line. Guy that's at Utah State, Eric Davidson. So Eric Strasser's gone too. They
lost a lot of.
They lost a lot of guys, and so they're going to be in a little bit of a transition period here. I don't know if Richland is going to be the Richland that we've seen in the last 4 years. I still think they're going to be a very good football team and probably top 4, top 3 in the MCC. But I just don't know if they're going to have all the guys to compete night in and night out. But we say that, and it's Richland. Like, they have a track record of always being able to be in it. And so I wouldn't be super surprised either if they had it where we're like, okay, they have all these dudes and they're stepping in and they're playing out of their minds, because Richland, Chiawana, Kamiakin, they always have guys that are next up in line. And we'll see. I mean, we're going to see week 1, Chiawana at Fran Rish.
This is a big game. I mean,
that's where our pep rally is on Friday morning, people.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to start
out.
What
What
time
do we have to get up?
6 o'clock. Oh. No, we got to be there at 6. So we got to. I usually leave the house about 5:15, swoop you up, and we go together.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I'm just going based off what people have told me. I'm the rookie, so I've never seen Richland play, and we haven't even been there for our Keeper Camp tour. So we'll know more after today.
Like, by the time this comes out, I probably will have a better idea. So maybe we should just cut
do
this.
What we'll do is, like, under we drop this on Twitter, we'll be like, okay, this is what we actually know.
Yeah.
But again, like you said, they have a reputation, and that, as a third-party observer, if your team has a reputation and has a culture of being great, the likelihood of you being great is very high.
Yes, they have a winning formula. And
it's not just like expectations, what we've talked about. It seems like it's been an embedded culture within that program that no matter what the expectation is, they have their own in culture that allows them to be successful.
Yeah, this is just the first time in my tenure here that they've had a real question mark at quarterback. The last few years, Josh Farner stepped in. Last year, we knew he transferred from Hanford. We knew he was a good quarterback. We knew he probably was going to win that job. Cade Jensen was the 2 years before that. They raved about him when he was starting his first year as a junior, became an MCC offensive MVP, and then Paxton Stevens my very first year. So this is the first year that there really feels like we don't know how good this quarterback is going to be. And they lost guys, but like you said, they have a winning pedigree. They have Tom Moore, who is now Pacific Northwest Hall of Famer, who is just their ball boy quarterback coach, who helps out with the offense, I'll say, a little bit. And their defense always flies around. So I think they're going to be okay. And I think they're going to be good. I think they're
and
we'll
know
fine.
week one
we will
when
know.
they face Chiawana.
We'll know how competitive they're going to be. Now, do I think Chiawana still wins that game? Because I think Chiawana is a pretty clear head above everyone else in the MCC. Yeah. But if they're in it, then that's not good news for the rest of the conference.
Yeah.
It's not good news because teams, you also realize when you walk in for a high school game, teams have already beat themselves.
Yeah.
Because, hey, so like Hanford has only beat Richland once, ever. And they've been around for a long time. So when they walk into that game, sometimes you feel like, from an outsider standpoint, that maybe they feel like, oh, we haven't beat them before, so why are we going to beat them? Pasco walks into Richland. They haven't beat them in a long time, so how are they going to beat them this time? And it's just, for kids and for young athletes, it's getting past that mental barrier. So I think Hanford is just as good as Richland this year, but they got to do it. And that's something that's hard to do.
And on something that I've learned about young athletes is that warm-ups are very important. And so if I can, I like to get to the games before it starts so I can see the kids warm up. How they warm up really allows you to see what kind of game it's going to be. If they are out there grinding and getting a sweat in during warm-ups, you know that they're ready to go and that they're going to probably have a very high chance of winning. If they're out there lackadaisical, lazy, or if they keep making eye contact with the opponent,
never know.
It's not a good sign. But yeah, like you said, like it all comes down to being able to get that mental block out of your head and just go out and compete.
I have a feeling that they're going to be better than what I think in my head, but I just don't know if they're going to be able to beat Kennewick, Kamiakin, or Chiawana this year.
And speaking of the Riverhawks.
Riverhawks are stacked.
Where do you even start?
Coach Graff has maybe the most talented skill positions across the board than he's ever had. And he's had 3 state titles. The thing that I think going into camp, and again, the way that I set up my camp previews, we were finishing with the top 2 teams from last year, so we haven't got to Chiawana. Chiawana's tomorrow. I just know, I kind of got a good feel. They had line questions. Would their line be able to give their skill positions, their quarterback, some time? But I think they'll probably figure that out because the bread and butter from Coach Graff is their offensive line and defensive line are very good. They run maybe 5 different run plays. It's not like
complex.
It's not like I'm going to unravel
Sean
things.
McVay offense.
Yeah, but they just do it a little bit better. Coach Bond took over for the offense last year, so it was a little bit different than they had in year past. But yeah, they're good. They got the Kobe's, Singleton, and they have Kobe.
I wish there were Kobe
Young.
cleats out so we could.
Yeah,
tweet
I was like,
them
oh
at
man,
Kobe.
hey, you guys got to get
wear
these. They don't. So, and JP Zamora is just a sophomore, and we've talked already about guys that are young that haven't had a lot of starting experience. But he played 5 games early on last year. 5 games, I think. He played last year. He started the first few weeks because Preston Vine was hurt. He had a shoulder issue, so he couldn't play. So freshman was starting for varsity.
Which what I've been told, coach doesn't like to do that.
Graff doesn't usually do that, as far as my understanding. I mean, every time I've seen, when I had here, we had the Simpkins bros, and we had Trent was their quarterback, or Troy. Well, it's Trent and Troy. Simpkins are twins, so I'm just like, but they had
One
Simpkins,
of the 2.
yeah, and then Enoch Vargas was their next one, and then last year was Preston, and he was a senior. So he's never, in my time, had a really young quarterback, which is also really bad news for the rest of the state. If this kid's a sophomore and he's going to be able to grow for 2 more years, and
he has the weapons this year to get the experience that he's going to need.
And he throws a good ball. He stood back there. I think they're going to be good. Their defense is always good. So you got JP and their running back, Gabe Shills, came back from last year. He was just a junior last year. He's a senior. I thought they needed to feed him more last year. He thought he was that good, and they didn't. And Now he's going to be their lead back. So not only do they have the guys on the outside, but they have the guy behind center too. And then you have Riley Sisney on the defense. Riley Sisney's a tough kid. One of the toughest athletes I've seen here. He was the MCC Player of the Year for baseball as a catcher last year. And he's going to be, I think they're moving him down to outside linebacker from safety last year. Their defense is going to be good. I really believe this team is going to scare a lot of people statewide. I have very high expectations for Chiawana, which is not always the best thing, because now you have expectations. But shoot, their first 4 games are not easy either. Richland, going to Fran Rish is a game.
Yeah.
I don't care if Chiawana has more talent this year. There's no question about that. But you're going to Fran Rish. You're going into Richland's place, and it's on grass. Thankfully, it's after summer. Man, if this was in December, dude, Fran Rish is a huge advantage. Playoffs, huge advantage. But the very first game, I also hate that this is the very first game of the year. Hate it.
Yeah, this is like when the college football decided to put like 1 against 3 a couple of years ago, week 1.
Yeah, this game should be
somebody's
later.
Gonna suffer from
they
that.
pick teams out of teams out of hat or something. But then they go Kennewick. That's also a good game.
Yeah.
Their front 4 games are hard. Then they go to Walla Walla. They should win that Walla Walla game. And then they have Union, the defending 4A champs, coming in here. Last year, and actually no, it's at Mackenzie, sorry. It's out in Vancouver area, Vancouver, Washington area.
Oh, man.
But not Vancouver, BC. So, and Union put it on Chiawana last year. And if you think Coach Graff forgot about that, or that those players forgot about that, Union goes on to win the state title. But that game is going to be a huge game for the WIAA 4A ranks. I hope we can get highlights. I hope we can get something. We'll call our people out there.
Yeah.
But that is a huge game. And then they go Hanford, Hermiston, Southridge, Kamiakin, Pasco. So they kind of go every other week. They kind of got a every other week type thing. But, man, Chiawana, I'm very excited to see this team.
Just to paint a picture of how good they are and how crazy of an offseason that they had, my first day here at Keeper, we found out that Kobe Singleton was going to be transferring to Chiawana. That's the first thing that I learned on my first day here. And talking to people, they said, Chiawana football is going to be crazy. We were in the beginning of baseball and soccer season, but a lot of people were already talking about Chiawana winning state. And so that told me, okay, this team is either got to be really, really good, and their expectations for this team have to be very, very high. I don't want to judge them so much on the MCC games because obviously they're all important, but that Union game.
That Union game is going to be
big. Union game is going to be very good, and it's also going to tell us what kind of team they are because I think that they have the talent, obviously, to go into any game in the MCC games and say, we have the edge. We are the favorites. But that Union game will really tell us how they play against teams out of this area. And that's what I really want to know because if they want to compete for the state championship, which is something above going and winning the MCC championship, that Union game is going to be very important.
Yeah, and I think they have the coaching staff to do it. That's another thing. Richland, they're not going to overlook. They'll never overlook Richland because also Coach Neidhold and Coach Graff are best friends, and they know each other really well. And it's a fun game because of that aspect too. There's a lot of mutual respect. They're not going to overlook Kennewick. I think they could run into a trap game here and there, but I think like you said, which Coach Fiatete, everyone knows you got to play in the MCC. You can't just be like, oh, I'm not going to play this week.
There's not a week where you go in and be like, oh, cakewalk.
They have all the expectations. But that also means they have a huge target. They're going to get everyone's best game.
They're the hunted this season.
Yeah, like the Warriors get everyone's best game, just like the Patriots get everyone's best game. When you know you're supposed to be good, everyone's going to come for you.
When they walk onto the field every single week, the opponents are going to look across that field and say, we got to get those guys. The fans are going to go to the game saying, we need to boo those guys. And when you have that as a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid, it can rock you.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of cool. Like 1 week, everybody's booing you, and then you shut up the crowd. But the problem is, when you can shut up the crowd in the first half, it's easy. When it's the fourth quarter, 2-minute drill, you got to get a field goal or a touchdown to win it. 16, 17, 18 years old, That's hard, and they're going to get that every single week.
I think the Union game is also good twofold. Even if they lose that game, not the end of the world, but if they're in it tight, they prove that they could play with one of the best teams in the state. Also, it tells Coach Graff exactly, and his coaching staff, who's a fantastic coaching staff, what they need to do in the next 6 weeks to be ready.
And it's great that it's in week 4, that it's so
that's-
young in the season that they can make the adjustments going into the rest of the season.
Okay.
We talked a lot about that, so I think we should just go power rankings, dark horse, talk on Dust Devils, and then we got to get out of here. So you got to go to Richland, I got to go to Dust Devils. Do you want to give your power rankings, or I'll go first since I'm the rookie?
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so obviously we talked about Chiawana.
Just going into week 1, yeah?
And going into week 1, I have them number 1
Yep.
in the MCC. They have the offense, they have the defense, they have the coaching staff. Those 3 things, if you have them, chances that you're going to win a lot of games very, very high. Following is Kennewick, which I have a lot of expectations for them. I think the Lions have the offense, the defense, and the quarterback. And the coaching staff is new, but I think that the kids have bought into their system and that the chemistry is there. Got Kennewick number 2. Got the Braves, run Kano number 3. Followed by Richland.
Student sections can't wait. They're the greatest.
Can't wait. Can't wait to take selfies. I've seen the selfies you've
Sideline
taken with
selfie
them.
nation.
So, Richland coming in at 4. Hanford right behind them. Hermiston and Walla Walla. And then at the bottom will be Pasco and Southridge.
I think it's a very solid. I think there's, it could definitely shake out that way. But it's going to shake out this way. This is what I got. This is what I got. I got Chiawana. I got Chiawana up top. I think everyone across the board, if you had them pick right now, Chiawana would be at your top. And then I have Kamiakin. And the sole difference is just because Coach Biglin, and he's been in the MCC, he knows what to expect week in and week out, and the guys know what they're going to expect from their head coach week in and week out. That's the only difference I see between Kamiakin and Kennewick. I think Kennewick is just as talented. I think they have the ability to beat Kamiakin, no questions asked. But like you said, it's a new coaching staff. Guys are getting used to it.
Yep.
He's also getting used to having to stop high-powered offenses week in and week out. I mean, in the CWAC, he was at Ellensburg. You have Prosser. Prosser was the highest-powered offense because they spread it out. Sela was good too, but they didn't have to do it week in and week out. So that's the only reason why I think Coach Biglin is a difference in the 3A ranks between Kamiakin and Kennewick.
Okay. So you got Chiawana, Kamiakin.
Yep, and then I have Richland.
Okay.
And that is because until Hanford can prove to me that they can beat Richland, I will have Richland above them in the standings. Because, A, maybe it'll fuel some fire, but also because, like you said, pedigree. Unless you've done it.
It's like the Patriots. I'm never going to pick anybody out of that division to beat the Patriots until I see it.
But then right after that is Hanford. So I think the Atomic Bowl at the end of the year, Richland-Hanford, is going to be a great game, and that could potentially be for the second 4A seed going into the playoffs. So I'm not saying like there's a big gap there. That's just where I see it for right now.
You got Kennewick way low on your list then.
Oh, no. Kennewick was right after Kamiakin.
Okay.
That's what.
Okay.
Sorry,
I thought you went Richland, Hanford.
No. Richland, Kamiakin, Kennewick. So I bunched those together, and then I kind of bunched Hanford and Richland.
Okay,
so Richland,
gotcha.
Hanford. And then here's my kind of dark horse. I think Pasco is going to surprise some people, and they're going to be a 3-5 team.
Okay.
I think they're going to be right under Hanford, and so I'm going to go Pasco, a little bit of starting return to that purple pride. Maybe I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid. Maybe I'm drinking.
I think they got
Coach
you
Leon
too. I think they got you too hyped at practice.
Yeah, they probably did. Got me way too hyped. And then I'm going to go Southridge. I like the direction where they're going. And I was out at camp. And this is also probably because I was out at camp. And then I'm going to go Walla Walla. I wasn't there, but your report from there, I kind of got a good feel. And I think it's just going to be a transition for Coach Lufer trying to figure it out. And I don't know, to be honest with you, I don't know if the small ball is going to work in this area.
Maybe I wasn't paying attention. Where did you have Hermiston? Did you have Hermiston
I
Pasco?
didn't say Hermiston. See, this is why he wrote it down. He wrote it down, and I'm just winging it.
The rookie. The rookie coming in clutch. How can you be so confident about your list saying this is how it's going to work out if you don't even name all the teams?
Because I just know. I got Pasco. I actually have Pasco above Hermiston.
Okay.
I have Pasco above Hermiston because I think Pasco is going to win week 1 against Hermiston.
So your list is Chiawana, Kamiakin, Kennewick, Richland, Hanford, Pasco, Hermiston, Walla Walla, Southridge.
No, Southridge, Walla Walla.
Southridge, Walla Walla.
Yeah. Did you guys get that?
All right.
Everyone write it down? Let's put a friendly wager on this on whose standings is closer.
Okay. So the last wager we did actually didn't turn out very good.
We're not doing hot wings for this.
So we're never doing hot wings again. Should we do the gentleman's agreement? You know what the gentleman's agreement is? $1.
$1?
Yep, that's a gentleman's agreement. Mostly
Lunch.
because, all right, lunch.
Lunch.
Put it right there.
Lunch.
Okay, so
and whoever loses gets to eat their lunch right here on the podcast in front of the other person.
Perfect. Okay, so just so the people know, and just so we know, okay, my list.
Yep.
Chiawana, Kennewick, Kamiakin, Richland, Hanford, Hermiston, Walla Walla, Pasco, Southridge.
The back end of our standings is going to determine what we got. So I got Chiawana, and I got Kamiakin, Kennewick, Richland, Hanford, Pasco, Hermiston, Southridge, Walla Walla. That was all of them. I read it right here. So.
All right. Okay. I don't know how we're going to determine. Should we just one will have a certain amount of points and each seed will have a certain amount of points and then we'll.
I think it should be reversed. Like Chiawana, the person gets Chiawana will be 8 points. And then, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
So the wager has been done. The handshake has been sealed.
And our point system has been.
Our point system has been established. So winner winner gets to eat the losers paid for lunch on the Monday Trifecta podcast. Where should I go? Okay, so at me, I'm still new to the city. At me with your favorite lunch places because this guy's definitely going to have to.
I'm making him buy me like a key sushi. We should have a limit.
Yeah, for sure.
Quickly before we go. Dust Devils are into the playoffs. Tonight is their last regular season game.
First time in 5 years.
First time in 5 years. Today only matters in the fact that, A, you're playing Spokane.
Yep.
Let's go. Let's win the series right before we go to the playoffs and play them again.
Yep.
Why not? And then also good momentum, right?
Yep. I'm going on practice right now. I'll talk to him. Something that's a little odd that we're going to figure out today is why they have 2 home games.
Yeah, they have 2 home games. They play Thursday, Friday at home.
Game 1's in Spokane. Game 2 is here. And if Game 3 is necessary, it's also going to be here. So
on Friday.
First Friday Night Fever, and then we're not going to be able to get to it, but AMs are also got a lot going on.
We're going to try.
It's going to be a crazy day.
Don't make any declarations like that. We're going to try. We got AMs on Thursday, Friday. They have preseason games. So I mean, if you don't have anything to do this week, I don't know what you're doing with your life because there's baseball, there's hockey, there's football, and then also we have soccer and volleyball and all the other fall sports starting next week. So guys, enjoy the sports world.
The time for me complaining that there was nothing going on this summer has officially
ended.
It's officially over. And now it's time to really get into the meaty-greedy part of sports, which we are so excited about.
Peace out, y'all. We'll see you next week because I'm pretty sure that was super long.
Yep.